I'm going to show you 7 simple tips that will fix almost any door problem using basic tools and stuff that you have laying around home. So let's start off with this door here. It is rubbing pretty bad at the top. You can close it, but you kind of have to jam it and get it closed. The first thing that you want to check is this top hinge. That takes all the weight of the door. You get a kid hanging off this end or just repeated use, this usually starts coming loose, causing that rubbing problem in the top corner. So we're going to check this hinge and you can see it's loose. So we're going to tighten up these screws here. And yeah, that's the problem here, is these screws are stripped out. You need to back these screws out, take them right out of the way. Once you get those all backed out, the simple fix here is toothpicks and wood glue. So just jam as many toothpicks as you can into each of the holes. Once you get them all filled up, take the cap off the wood glue, pull the picks out, and then dip them in the glue. This is the easiest way to glue them up. Stuff them back in, and then you want to just snap them off right at the hinge there. Don't worry about a mess. You can clean that up after the screws are in. Take the screws, and then that is snugtastic. That's a word I just made up, but it applies here. And now, if you're lucky, that may fix your problem. Let's check the door and see if it's still rubbing. All right, the door is closing, but we still have a tight gap up here. It's under 1/16 of an inch. Down at the bottom here, it's a heavy 1/8, if not 3/16. So let me show you the trick that I've used more times in my life than any other trick. And to do it, you're gonna need a drill. Now, you could do it with a screwdriver, but if you have a drill, you wanna use the drill for sure. Get the bit in there. That's what I like about these multi-drivers here, is you have all the bits and you can pop them in your drill. It's a nice way to keep them all together. And you're gonna need a 2.5-inch screw with a number 8 head. That is key here. Back off this middle screw, and we're gonna replace it with the 2.5-inch screw, and we're gonna suck this whole thing over and hopefully get the perfect gap over there. Let's see if it works. All right, let's check that out. And you can see that the door did get sucked over by that screw and the gap is improving up here, but it's still a little bit smaller than the gap on the bottom here. And that brings us to tip number 3. And now this is kind of a magic trick that if you break this out at your friend's place, you're gonna be a hero. Let me show you the hinge bending trick. Now you can see these hinges here, this top hinge. What happens with the doors that end up rubbing on this side a lot of the time is because this is loose, the hinge actually gets bent. And you can see the gap here is quite a bit bigger than this bottom hinge. So what we need to do is remove the pin. Now once this head is exposed here, it's a little tight, but if you want to take the pressure off, just grab the doorknob, pull it up a little bit, and it'll pull right out. Then you want to take a couple of wood shims, and we're going to try to put this door into the perfect alignment here so that this gap is nice and parallel all the way along. And now we take a look at our hinges, and you can see that if these things were lined up, then the door would be in perfect alignment. So we want to bend the loops that are attached to the hinge that is on the door. To do that, we're going to use a crescent wrench and bend them back. Get a nice snug fit. We'll pop the pin back in. Remove the shims. Bang, bang. You've got the perfect reveal all the way along here. And now our door is 100% fixed. Now this is one of my best tips. Carpenters have been using it for thousands of years. I believe Noah first used this on the Ark with one of his problem doors. This one works great anytime you have an exterior door with these big hinges that you cannot bend. And now the problem with this door here is it's out of alignment. We're really tight at the top. you've got like a 1/4 inch gap at the bottom, and that alignment issue is causing this door not to latch. And you can see the problem, the latch is just rubbing along the bottom here and it's not able to get inside and close the door. So let me show you how to fix that with a piece of cardboard. And if you need any cheap tools, I have got the perfect kit for you. I've been researching it for the last couple of months, finding the best tools at the best prices. I'll put all the links in the description. If you're watching on TV, you can check out the QR code. So you want to just undo that bottom hinge plate, flip it out of the way. Now the gap on this door was almost a 1/4 inch at the bottom, so I'm going to start with the thicker cardboard. To figure out the shape, I'm just going to trace on the shape right onto the cardboard. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just to give you a rough idea here. And pop that in place. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just enough to shim the door over. All right, let's test the door out and see if we're latching. The door's latching, and take a look at this gap here. This is a thing of beauty. This is a carpenter's dream right here. Nice and even all the way. Let's move on to tip number 5. Now, if you've never seen this tip, it will blow your mind. If you have a rattling door, it's such a simple fix. Take a flathead screwdriver. There's always a little tab inside of the latch plate. This one here has a slot, so it slides in nicely. If you don't have that slot, you come in from the bottom and the top. But yeah, watch this. And you just tweak that out. You might have to try it a couple times. Let's give that a try. Rattle's gone. Let's move on to tip number 6. Now this one is my sneakiest tip. It saved my bacon over 100 times on a 6-story apartment building that I was working on that had crazy settling. And this one here is you've tried all your other tips, but you just need a tiny bit more for a door or a deadbolt to latch. Let me show you the metal grinder. So what you want to do is where you have that wear point, take a black Sharpie and just trace on a little line. The best tool for the job is a Dremel with a metal grinding bit, but you can also do it with a drill bit. It just takes a little longer. And that is a crafty little hack. Anytime you need that tiny little bit of extra for any of your latching problems, let's move on to the mystical tip number 7. Now we've all got this one door in our house that just closes on its own. I call it the ghost door. This door's been doing this for the last 25 years. That door stop has been holding it open, but I'm going to show you how to fix it once and for all, and you're going to laugh at just how simple this tip is. What you want to do is come to the top pin and remove it. Take it outside. Now with these pins, they have a bit of a lip, so if you put them down on something hard, you can smack them in the middle and give them a little bit of a bend. And that's all you're going to need, is just a tiny little bend in that pin. All right, let's see if the ghost is still around. Okay, just that little bend in the pin has put enough friction in this top hinge to solve that problem, and the door still functions perfectly fine. If you've tried all these 7 tricks and you're still having door problems, leave me a comment and I will try to help you out the best that I can. And if you've got a door that is rubbing like crazy on the top and you want to know how to fix it, check out this video right over here.